Alright, I decided to do my presentation on dog nutrition and its overall effect on a dog's health. And this picture is interesting that I used. That was actually a beagle that was surrendered to Chicago Animal Care and Control. Obviously his owners loved him a little bit too much. That was a year or two ago that he was. And I chose beagles because you see a lot of overweight beagles. And that's actually on the right what a beagle is supposed to look like in good shape. You do not see a lot of those. So dog nutrition facts, dogs are omnivores. They are not obligate carnivores like cats are. So they do thrive on animal protein. You shouldn't feed a dog a vegan or vegetarian diet unless that they have like really strict allergy requirements they meet, or they have like a weird diet digestive thing and your vet recommends it. I would not suggest putting your dog on a vegan or vegetarian diet just because you're a vegan or a vegetarian and you don't want to feed your dog meat. Just because the dog is going to suffer from it, it's a lot harder to balance a vegan or vegetarian diet for a dog because they do so well at animal protein. But they do need those vegetables. A dog can't thrive on a meat-only diet either. And just always read your labels because the lower quality foods and sometimes even homemade diets, they don't meet all of the requirements that a dog needs. So for health and nutrition, this is the picture I was telling you about. I found it. A quality diet prevents a lot of issues from occurring, obesity, allergies, skin and ear infections, and early death in the dog. Feeding a high-protein quality dog food saves you a lot of money also. People don't realize it. So with this picture, these are all different brands of dog foods that stores carry. Over here is Origin, which is an awesome high-protein, grain-free, sourced in the United States, really awesome brand of dog food. And over here is Old Roy, which you can get for about $20 for 50 pounds at Walmart. This is how much you have to feed a 50-pound dog for 3 days. This is their recommendation. So if you are buying this bag of like Old Roy here and you think you're saving a bunch of money because you're getting 50 pounds versus this is a 23-pound bag for about $75, you are going to go through 3 or 4 bags in the time that it's going to take you to go through this. So in the reality, yeah, you're going to spend more money up front, but you're going to save a lot of money on vet bills from the issues that they could possibly have, gastrointestinal issues, skin, allergy, ear infections from the lower quality food, versus this that's going to go through their system a lot easier. It's going to be more digestible. They're going to poop a lot less, which is nice because they don't have all of this extra filler and corn and stuff that they can't digest going through their system. So you're going to have a dog with a lot healthier stool and they're going to poop a lot less, which a lot of people really like. And it will save you money in the long run, even if the sticker price is more initially.
And you got to send me that picture because I know what we were talking about.
Okay, so obesity is a side effect. This is an actual picture of a dachshund. The little breeds that have, the short legs and stuff, it looks a lot worse on them because they don't have as much space in between them and the ground. But they do have a big propensity to be obese. Poor quality food is high in sugar and fat, like a lot of fast food is for people. People don't realize that. If you're buying a food that's cheaper, the sticker price is cheaper, it's because those ingredients are cheaper for the company to get and cheaper for them to use. So they're not going to be using as high quality ingredients because they want to make a product that is cheaper to make. So a lot of people run into the problem where their dog likes it better because it's like McDonald's for their dog. It's going to taste better to them. It's going to be almost like a treat because it has so much sugar and so much more fat. So a lot of people will say that their dog likes it, their dog won't eat anything else. But it will eventually lead a lot of times to heart disease, arthritis, like Melissa just talked about, hip dysplasia, CCL injuries, which is equivalent of a human ACL injury, diabetes, kidney disease, and it can even cause cancer. And actually the dog obesity, I think it's .org, or petobesity.org said that it can shorten lifespan up to 2.5 years, having a dog that's consistently overweight throughout its life. And once again, going back to high quality food and proper diet can really make that a lot easier to prevent obesity because there's less fillers and it's more digestible, so they're not having to do as much work to get all of that extra stuff out of their body.
Now, do you notice this dog is being neglected? Look at those
Mammals too, yep.
That's not good, obviously.
So allergies and skin and ear infections are also a common problem that dogs have, especially if dogs are sensitive to grain. A lot of dogs, like even Stella, I had her on a food that wasn't grain-free, but it was a high-quality food, and she did fine on it, and then I switched her to another brand of food that was, it was still a good food, but it had barley as one of the ingredients, and she turned all pink and itchy, and it didn't get anywhere near as severe as this, but she was licking her feet to the point where she had blisters and chewing on them constantly, and I could tell right away that she was having an issue with that food specifically. So it is pretty easy to tell when a dog is having allergies. This is really common for grain allergies. You have a dog that has really dry, flaky, itchy skin, and even if it's not to this extent, if your dog has constant dandruff, and they're itching all the time. You touch them and their leg starts going. That's a symptom of usually like a grain allergy or some allergy to an ingredient in their food. A lot of times they'll get like the itching around the nose and the eyes just because they're eating, so this area that's coming in contact with the food a lot of the times. This is a hot spot, so when a dog compulsively licks one area that's itchy, they'll develop big blisters almost on their skin. And this is a yeast infection. This is a really severe yeast infection, but having a grain allergy, a lot of the times in dogs, it makes them develop a lot of yeast on their skin and in their ears. So if you know you have a dog that's getting recurrent yeast infection, it's one thing if they're swimming and outside all the time and stuff and they're getting stuff in their ear, that could make it a good environment for yeast. But if you have a dog like Stella that has big open ears and they're airy and you're not getting water in them and you have this happening all of the time, this is not an environmental issue, this is a food issue usually. A lot of times people get into the problem where they don't think like their dog's not vomiting, so they must not be allergic to their food. That's not necessarily true. It could go through their gastrointestinal system just fine, but the actual nutrients in the food absorb differently, and that causes other issues everywhere else. All right, and then choosing a commercial diet, you want to create a budget based on the cost per month, not per bag. Like we talked about, the quality foods are going to cost more just because they cost more to produce. But you have to look at how long that bag is going to last you for your individual dog. And see what your budget is going to realistically be based on that, not just the price that you're paying at the store. You want to make sure that meat is the first ingredient for dogs, just because that's where they're going to get their protein, they're going to get their fat, and all of their meat contains every essential vitamin and mineral that the dog needs. For the most part, besides the few that they need for vegetables, but the main concentration of them is going to be in the protein. So you got to make sure that meat is the first ingredient, and then a meat meal is the second ingredient. So it doesn't have to be like, obviously I try to stay away from like byproduct meals and stuff that's not as direct, but like a meat meal is just ground ingredients, whether it be like bone and meat or organs, meat and meat. It's not just going to be your basic like chicken breast or something, but it could be organ meat and stuff like that that's really beneficial for dogs. And avoid hard to digest fillers like corn, wheat, and soy, just because those are the 3 most common allergens for dogs. They don't need them, it's just strictly used as a filler to make the food cheaper to use or to make. And to sell, and dogs can't really get anything from them. So this is a list of digestibilities for dogs of different proteins. They rated egg whites at a 1 on this scale, so it goes from 0 to 1. Because egg whites are super digestible, dogs can tolerate them very easily. That's like the best of the best. So muscle meats are 0.92, organ meats are 0.9. If you go all the way down to corn, corn is 0.54. So that has half the digestibility. So your dog is not going to be able to properly digest that. And that's just going to get expelled as waste because your dog can't use it. So it's going to be having their body do a lot more work to process it, where this just goes right through and they absorb the nutrients and that's it.
I like that figure because that 1 doesn't mean anything. They just said whatever eggs are, however they're digested, we put it at 1 and compare everything else. And everything else is less digestible.
Yeah, so you want to also avoid artificial colors and flavors. When you see a dog food that has all kind of colorful pieces and it's different shapes and it's really cute, that's for you. That's not for the dog. The dog doesn't care if it's colored, but the dog does care when their liver and their kidneys are having a really hard time processing that dye, especially like the red dye. So dogs have a really hard time processing that, and that can cause all kinds of problems with them. So if you see a food that has food dye in it, usually it's not going to be a very good food anyway, so just try to stay away from those in general. Check recalls for brands. There's a lot of brands that might seem great, but if their quality control isn't good, like I know even Blue Buffalo had a huge thing with their quality control, and everyone sees that, you know, you see commercials, it seems like a great brand of food. They had dogs dying because they had allergens in them that their quality control let slip, and dogs were eating this food that they thought were not they thought they didn't have corn, wheat, soy, chicken, and these dogs were actually like being hospitalized because they had things in them that they shouldn't. So you want to always check the brand's history, and make sure that it's a reputable brand before you decide to spend your money on it and put it into your dog. And then see what your dog likes. I did say be careful, because obviously if you give them a bowl of junk food, they're like little kids. They're not going to pick the healthy food over the junk food if you set it down in front of them. But like a kid, you wouldn't let a kid have ice cream and cookies for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. You shouldn't do that for your dog either. It's just not going to give them the nutrients they need. It's not going to give them the best chance of having a long life and a healthy life. And then switching your dog's food, you don't want to do it all at once, especially if your dog is eating a lower quality food. If you want to switch them to high protein, grain-free, really great food, that's going to be a big jump. That would be like switching someone that eats McDonald's every day to having, fruits, vegetables, and meat, and that's it. So it's going to take about 7 to 10 days where you're switching their food and just giving them a little bit more of the new food with every meal just so that their digestive system can kind of transition slowly, so you're not shocking their system. And it does take about 4 weeks to even 8 weeks to see a change in their overall appearance with their skin and their allergies. So if you know your dog's having allergy issues and you want to switch their food, don't get discouraged if you switch them to something and 2 weeks later they're still having itching and everything, because it's going to take a while to get all of that stuff out of their system, so you can have just the results of the new food. So I always tell people when they're coming in and looking for food, you know, I've tried this, 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 and this. How long did you try it? Did you give them 2 meals and then you took it back because it wasn't working? You've got to let it get out of their system and give it time to do its best. And then going back to the
So you're saying about 4 weeks?
4 weeks to even 2 months before
Okay.
you see real results, skin growing back, less itching, stuff like that, or hair growing back.
Right.
Growing back. And then if a dog is used to junk food, they're going to be hesitant to switch to a new one. A lot of people will come in and say, well, my dog won't eat this, my dog won't eat this. They tried for a day, they left the food down, and the dog didn't touch it, and they freaked out because their dog didn't eat for 1 day. Dogs are not like people where, you know, they're doing it on purpose, they're just like pouting or whatever. They're not going to starve themselves, they're not going to let themselves starve. If you have food down in front of them, the food will win and they will get hungry and they will eat it. A lot of people just are too sensitive, they don't like to wait out their dog, they don't want their dog to be mad at them, you know, they don't want to ruin the relationship with their dog, but try to be patient. I know it's hard, but you're doing something that's going to be better for them in the long run, and they will be healthier and everything in the long run for you if you do wait it out. I think that is all I have. And then
Excellent timing. Questions on this whole big thing about dog food is amazing. Because all the packages, all the colors, all the shapes.
That's all for you.
All for you.
Yeah.
Well, now you have those people who want to feed the raw diet and only the raw diet,
Yeah,
so they
there's-
don't get vegetables.
It's very controversial because
If you do it right, it's really right. But with that, if you do it wrong, you are going to be hurting your dog. You don't know how much research and science goes into
Right.
formulating those diets.